Ladies and gentlemen, what's going on? It's Egal Talks Football. We're back again with another video. This is a little bit of a different scenery as you got Jay on a work day coming in to talk about Tottenham as Ange Postecoglou has been sacked. Tottenham are looking for Qatari investment into their club, and we already have ideas of who their new manager might be. It could be Marco Silva, it could be Thomas Frank. There's so much floating about. But Jay, before we go any further, Ange Postecoglou, was it the right decision to let him go?
Uh, I was saying before that I looked at it and I said I don't disagree with the decision. I understand the decision, but do I agree with the decision? I'm not sure. Difficult one. I think that the form in the league um is such that the club are more than entitled to say, "Hey, I'm not sure whether or not this guy can take us forward." I think if you look at what the club would want in an ideal world, is top four, top five, and a cup. So I think in season one, Ange was like top five, but we didn't win a cup. In season two, 17th, but won a cup. So a lot of people can argue, well, the squad wasn't strong enough, this and that. And I think the club basically is taking an idea that the team is a lot stronger than than what we're showing. And I guess it's almost saying that they believe that we should have won the Europa League period. Do you see what I mean? As in, like, with this kind of decision making, you're almost saying, thank you for getting over the line, but we expected you to get over the line kind of energy in that. And you're coming into the new season and you're not going to play in that competition. I know. Obviously, it's good when you're telling to rival fans, we won this. You didn't win it when you were in the competition, and that is amazing and fun and Twitter jokes and all that sort of stuff. Like agendas. But come next season, none of this will matter to an extent, and you need to put your best foot forward. So, I think for me, the club made potentially the right decision, but it was always going to be an emotional, difficult decision for a number of the fans to take. I think if you asked a lot of fans between kind of like March, February, March, April, whether we should sack Ange, I think it was the majority were saying that it's over, and then I think the club can't, whilst winning a trophy is amazing. And I think the club are, to a large extent, right to put the emotion of the win to one side when they're trying to make this decision. I think it's the logical thing. I do think there's a great case to be said that football is about emotion. Football is about these moments, and you're becoming robotic
How do
if
you
you.
feel about the reports? How do you feel about the reports that Spurs players, first team players, are in uproar that this has happened, and they feel like shocked by it?
I liken it. To me, I liken it a little bit like, let's say you work in a company, yeah, and you have a sales manager and you love your sales manager. He's a great guy, but you guys are coming in under quota. Then you had an amazing Q4. Do you know what I mean? Smashed it out of the bit. But now your boss needs to renew the sales manager for like a year or 2 years. The company would be entitled to look at the overall performance across all four quarters rather than the last quarter, which was good. And I know that's a simplified way of looking at it and it takes away the nuance of football, but all of those in those companies, when you have a boss that you like, but you're not achieving your goals, any of those members of staff would be disappointed to see the boss go. But one could understand from a business point of view, you're not achieving the objectives. I guess people will turn around and say, winning a title, isn't that what football's about? And it is to a large extent. But the club are looking at, how do you duplicate that? Can we duplicate that? And the players will, to me, the players will get over it. It's one of those things where, you've seen with Ten Hag, you've seen with Di Matteo. It's like, I think Sir Alex is probably the strong example to the other side. Do you know what I mean? Because when Sir Alex won that trophy with Man United, when he was on the brink, that turned everything round. Do you know what I mean? But when you look at like Di Matteo, slightly different context, or Ten Hag, those were plasters over a bullet wound in terms of what was going on. So I see it from both sides. The players will have to suck it up and get over it. I appreciate that a lot of them had good relationships with them, with the manager, but it's not personal. It's just business. It's the business of football.
He was sacked exactly 2 years from the day that he got hired. Hilarious. Also, I think you guys have come to the right decision. I do agree that his time probably has come to an end and he gets to leave on a high. If I were you guys, Thomas Frank or De Zerbi links, De Zerbi might be interesting. Thomas Frank would be interesting. Marco Silva, though, I think I would stay clear of Marco Silva out of the three. And Ange Postecoglou leaving Tottenham in this manner just proves to me that trophies don't matter as much as fans say they do. Because if the surrounding context of your club is a mess and you're finishing 17th, the trophy can be something that papers over the cracks of the season. But for the wider context to continue to progress as a club and for the long-term viewing of the project or the direction the club is going in, you need to have the right person in charge, and the right steps need to be put towards long-term success. Because short-term success can only lead you in a cycle where you're continuously chasing short-term success. And for a club who didn't really have any trophies or anything for a long time, this was great for Tottenham.
Yeah.
But overall, your owners made the right decision. They know that it was not sustainable to play the way you guys were playing throughout the season, be it injuries or no injuries. And now you just need to see where you can go from here. Take it away. What do you say?
No, yeah, definitely. I think this is you look at it and this is a good opportunity. I think Spurs have this opportunity to look at and kick on and move forward and show what they're trying to achieve moving forward. Sorry, bear with me 1 second. Hold on. Yes, just brightening up a little. Yeah, so the club just needs to look at the right decision moving forward. It's not linear. Do you know what I mean? I think when you look at it, people will naturally look at the trophies, and I just don't think it's as easy to just put it down to one thing. I get where fans will be very disappointed, and obviously, I think with this kind of decision, you're always going to get a certain level of mourning, a certain level of reflection, and it's like I'm not even mentally in a state where I'm like, oh, how's Thomas Frank going to set up? How's he going to tactic? I'm not really even mentally there yet. Do you know what I mean? I'm still just kind of like almost like not processing, but like kind of processing. Like
Let's remember some of Ange's best moments, though. There were some funny moments. First of all, for rival fans, is definitely the fact that Tottenham had 22 defeats and finished with 38 points. Like, you didn't even get 40 points. That is crazy.
Well, the one thing I'd say about that is like that to me is like I remember thinking a few weeks ago like, oh, I think Spurs should finish 17th. I didn't want us to, but I was like, finishing 17th and winning the Europa League has such a ring to it rather than finishing like 16th or 15th. Do you know what I mean? It's like both extremes. So I was almost like, I think I was almost mentally thinking, right, you know what? Finishing 17th is what kind of like we need to happen just for the season to have maximum silliness. Do you know what I mean? So
I think that's copium, but I hear you. This gave us a lot of laughs, a lot of joy throughout the season. But you know what? Fair play to him. He delivered. He said he wins things in the second season, and we'll never get to see the trilogy. But there you go.
It's true. It's like we'll never see season 3. You know, it's like, and I was trying to think. I was making the joke. It's like,
I don't think you want to see season 3 because
I mean, like, but I likened it to like Doctor Who, because like in Doctor Who, every few seasons they change the main character. So like I'm hoping like like Spurs can be a bit like Doctor Who. You know what I mean? So
You're saying still have a good. You know what someone said? They said you can in a year's time you could rehire him, and his second season he can win you something again.
yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. It's like I just think it's one of those where fans are trying to be. I don't want to take the emotion away from football.
What
Like
about this?
go.
This was the wildest game I've ever seen. Like what?
I almost, and you know what's funny about this, and no one will understand this, but like this Son's had two quite big butterfly effect sliding door moments in games, and I remember them so vividly. In this game, the when Son scored, but it was offside, I had to make it 2-0. Like obviously just offside, yada yada, but like that changes the whole game. Do you know what I mean? Like if it's 2-0, Romero probably don't get sent off. Van der Ven might not pull his hamstring, yada 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 yada. But also, I remember a few years ago, Spurs lost to Leicester. Similar, 1-0 up. Son scored a disallowed goal. This is like in 2019, 2000, and Son scored a disallowed goal. Leicester came back, won the game 2-1. I remember Maddison scored a screamer. We lost the game. Son, both games, scored a second decisive goal, which probably would have cleared the game for us. Both times VAR ruled it out. Yeah. So with that, it was almost like I feel like that's something that the Spurs team at the time was doing well, but it was so fragile. And we didn't know how fragile the team was, how light the squad was. As soon as those injuries hit in that season one, I almost feel like we never got back on that specific track.
You can't mention Son miss without mentioning the day that Ange went against your whole fan base to try to be competitive against Man City.
And this isn't a very interesting butterfly effect. Obviously, again, you know, Son misses this chance. Spurs don't make Champions League. Arsenal don't win the league. Spurs obviously go into the Europa League, which they obviously win. We probably wouldn't have won the Champions League had we made it. So a lot happens from this miss as well. So, you know, I'm grateful for Ange.
Would Ange still be in the job if he got you Champions League football 2 years in a row?
I don't think he would, but because the thing is that he probably wouldn't. He probably would have lost his job quicker because this season gone. Had we been 17th, 16th, 17th, 15th, but you don't have the Europa League because the alternative would be maybe last 32, last 16 in the Champions League, and you're going out. Do you see what I mean? So you wouldn't have had the Europa League run. Do you see what I'm saying? So if you're this position, but you also don't have the trophy and you're out of all the cups and but then on the flip side, Spurs would have probably improved in the league because they would have been able to play their first team on a weekly basis in the league. So I don't know. We probably would have been like sixth or something, maybe a little bit higher. But yeah, we probably would have rallied in the league once we went out of everything and done a bit better. So he might not. I think
who do you prefer as the preferred option? We're not even going to talk about the fact that as an Arsenal fan, let's be honest, Ange Postecoglou made our time versus him very simple. We played you 4 games. 3 of those games we won. 1 of the games we drew. And in the 2 years we had title races, you really did not give us too much problems.
Yeah.
But besides that, bringing it back to who's going to replace Ange. If I gave you the choice right now from the 3 candidates that are being the strongest link to your club, De Zerbi, Thomas Frank, and Marco Silva, who would you take? By the way, De Zerbi and Thomas Frank both have bad records versus Arsenal, but Marco Silva has a really good record versus Arsenal and some of the bigger teams.
You know what? I might actually prefer Marco Silva to Frank. I'm not sure mentally, maybe. I'm not sure. I feel like Frank's I think Brentford have better scouting and data and stuff than Fulham. Like Fulham are way more just like a cappella. Like they're just kind of like just you look at Fulham and you randomly see like Willian playing on the wing, or do you know what I mean? Like it's like Fulham are just like a mishmash of talent kind of thing, where like I think Silva's doing a better job than you might think. And obviously Silva's had, he's played a number of the different teams. I think he's a good manager. I like Marco Silva. I like Frank as well. I think he's a good manager. Again, these two managers they're good managers in the league. They've built stable Premier League clubs. Both of them are kind of, potentially ready for the step up. You could make the argument: is it going to be like Moyes or is it going to be like Poch at Southampton? I'm not really sure. I like De Zerbi a lot. Probably out of the three of them, that tactically, he's the one that would excite me the most. But from a working with the board point of view, I can appreciate that he's the one who's going to be the most Conte-esque in personality, the most challenging, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. You want the club and team to improve. So I'd probably say De Zerbi would be my favorite. Out of people forget how amazing what De Zerbi was doing with Brighton was, and how well they were playing, and how good that team was before it started getting picked apart. With the McAllister and Caicedo, but he had those guys purring. Like he was playing tier 1 football in the league. Do you know what I mean? So from that, to me, is like that would be the most attractive style. It would be almost like Ange ball with more structure. Do you know what I mean? So that would probably be my number one. But I think I've already seen that he wants to stay at Marseille.
All right, final one. I know you don't like talking about it, but at least give me 30 seconds of what your thoughts are. Qatari investment comes into Tottenham. They're willing to invest in Tottenham. They're gonna let Levy still be part owner and run the show to a certain degree, but they're gonna pump in money. You're gonna be able to now attract the top managers. You're gonna be able to spend similar money to Chelsea and Man City. Could you see a world where where Tottenham are blowing 250 million on the transfer window, getting the best players in the world?
No, because I think that the investment side of football, every team now invests in a certain way, like in terms of young players, profiles, resale value, scalability.
You think that would continue?
Every team does it. Like even Real Madrid, they just do it with a bigger budget and with slightly higher quality players, but they still do it. Like Dean Huijsen, he's just gone to Real Madrid. Like 5 years ago, would Real Madrid be like really looking at Huijsen? They'd be trying to get someone. You can even see they got Alaba, Rudiger on freeze. So what I'm saying is that any team, look at Paris Saint-Germain, look at the squad that they built, Barcola, Destiny Doué. Even when they're adding people like Kvara, he's what, like 24, 25? And that was still only like 60 million. Like I was having this conversation in my group chat before, like Wirtz is like 100, 113 million. That's a lot of money, but there's lots of talent out there between sort of 25 and 50 million at good ages. And I think that Spurs would still be in that bracket. You'd just be trying to buy the best you can get. You even look at like Newcastle and you'll see like, players like Livramento, Lewis Hall, Botman, Bruno Guimaraes, Tonali, Isak when they got him, Gordon, Harvey Barnes. All of those guys are within a age demographic and mostly within a financial demographic. Even Arsenal, look at most of the players you buy, they're within a certain age profiling and a certain monetary value, bar like the Declan Rices where you're kind of swinging for the hills. So I would just think you'd scale it up. Like, for example, you can argue Spurs do what Brentford do, but on a maybe bigger scale. Then you say like Paris Saint-Germain are doing what Spurs are trying to do on a bigger scale. So yeah, I would just look at it from the point of view of quite simply that the approach would be more grandiose. Yeah, you'd spend more on wages. You'd probably get the highest talent in that bracket, but the principal logic would probably remain somewhat similar.
I think that would completely go out the window the moment you're spending money like Man City and Chelsea. I think Tottenham would still use their scouting, but you definitely would attract quality players. That's it for today, bro. I gotta wrap it up though.
Yeah. But I was just saying before you run, I was just saying, look, if you look at City, like even when they were buying the Bernardos, the Kevin De Bruynes, the Ruben Diaz's, are they not still part of the bracket that we're talking about? It's just they're at the top end of it.
Yeah, they eventually have to become those players. That's
exactly.
what it is. Anyways, we're gonna wrap it up here, guys. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed this video. Big up Jay for joining me during
pleasure. Always thanks for having me.
And there you go. Tottenham.
Make sure you guys tune in for more wonderful Tottenham recap. I'm joking. This is a one.
All right, peace out. Have a good one, guys.